Hello friends, welcome back for another part of our walkthrough of Oxygen Not Included Spaced Out. This is part 51. We are almost done, and if you have been watching this entire series, thank you so much for hanging out. I hope you've had a good time. Please let me know if there was any parts that you would like me to explain more, or if you're stuck in your own runs or anything like that. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Alright, this time, we are going to be settling on the Regolith asteroid. I already have the rocket built out, which we've done a lot so far, so I'm not really going to rehash it. We brought all of our supplies, got all of our buildings up here. Our rooms are good to go. We have a great hall and a washroom. Our crew should be assigned, so we can just get them in here and get them out to the asteroid. So, again, just going to use a steam rocket, which will just barely get us there. No real qualms with using any other rocket type if you want, but I just like the steam rockets because they're fairly cool in terms of, like, temperature. They're also pretty cool in terms of, like, the kids seem to enjoy them. I'm old, I know. Alright, so we're just going to blast this rocket off and get them there. This whole video is going to be about settling on that asteroid. So we're going to go from front to back, what you're going to need to do to get settled there. This will be the last asteroid that we're going to settle on, because that's the last artifact that we're going to need in order to check off all of our objectives. And I say the last asteroid, and that's not actually true. We're gonna do all of them, but this is the last one that's really required in order to complete the game. And I use that in quotes because there isn't really a completion status other than basically checking all the boxes on your printing pod, but yeah, we'll get them out to the asteroid and we'll get started. This is probably going to be kind of a long video, but, you know, that's just kind of what you get when you're settling on these bigger asteroids. So, oh, one thing I should mention, by the way, is if you have not sent some rovers to pre-mine a lot of this, I would probably do that and get it looking something like this by the time you get there. You could mine all of it out, but managing the rovers is kind of annoying because you're usually doing a bunch of other things at the same time, but at least getting it down to a point that you can build a decently sized base without having to use this backplating or like being too far away from the ground or something like that would be really nice to do. So yeah, you probably want to do that before you go, and I have been doing that a lot on our way here, but yeah, here's our crew. They'll be there in just a bit, and we'll get started. Okay. We are here, and I've already sent my payloads down because I just get this bug every time, and I know if you've been watching the other videos, you've seen where I can't click on these, so I've already restarted after sending these down. Somebody told me to hold Alt and click or something like that, and I still can't select it, so I don't know what's going on with this, but it is quite annoying. Okay, anyway, let's get the rest of this down here. First of all, we need to send our rover like usual, so I'm just going to deploy that. And like I mentioned, we have already mined out a bunch of this, so this will help us out quite a bit, but this last rover will just be to help us unpack and get stuff up quickly, just like we've done every other time. And then the duplicate that I want to take, we can just send them down right now. No reason to wait for too long. Let's get someone. Oh, both of these are a little bit hurt, but I think they're fine. Let's see. I think I was going to take you. Yeah, let's do that. Alright. Get in the suit. Or just eat a meal. You know, let's just all awkwardly stare. Actually, that means that she's about to go to sleep too, so maybe that's not the best person to choose. Okay, fine. You got lucky this time. Alright, Nicola, you get in here and let's go. Alright, so we'll put Nicola in the Trailblazer module, drop him straight down here. There we go. And on this planet, it's going to be a little bit weird. We're just going to land here, and we're going to have to get started by building some protection against meteors, because this planet gets hit by meteors a lot. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of it. But we need to protect ourselves as one of the first things that we do. So we're going to just get landed, and we're not going to build a base right away. This one we're actually just going to protect ourselves so that we can safely live out of our rocket for a little while. So for now, I'm just going to unpack some payloads here, and then we'll get the rocket down. And I'd ideally like to put this pretty low if I can, so I don't... Yeah, I'm not going to dig all the way down quite yet. If I had been, like, more on top of things and, like, able to shift back and forth between, like, 3 or 4 different planets constantly, then we probably would have had more of this mined out, and it would have been a little bit better, but still... Having this little bit down here is a good way to catch all the water and stuff that's down here to give us a good starting point. So I don't know. I'm pretty happy with how this went. Alright, I think we should have enough for a platform. Let's go ahead and put it down. Sure. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. You can start deconstructing this, and there should be some mafic rock around to start building a few ladders. Just sit here awkwardly for a long time while we watch Nicola do this. There we go. Now that we've got that, let's land our rocket. And then all we're going to do is just deconstruct the bottom module so that everybody can get out at this surface level. Notice how long this takes to land. This is a really big asteroid. So this is actually going to be one of the more expensive asteroids to settle on. There's going to be some more water for us too, by the way, so that's nice. Let's wait for this to all dissipate a little bit before we deconstruct it. And he's just going to go to sleep. Alright, someone from the inside still should be able to deconstruct it, but the problem I want to avoid is, like, they can get stuck up here. So let me do this instead. Just to be sure that they don't get stuck, I'm going to build some ladders. What can happen is if a duplicate is standing right here and you deconstruct it, they can get stuck, like, up on top of here with no way to get off. So I kind of want to make sure that all this stuff is built before they start... coming out, and I'm using a resource that's only available out here so that they can't get out until this reaches up there enough. There we go. Now that it's being supplied, they can start to reach it. Then I'll use someone to deconstruct this. And I'm going to deconstruct it all the way down to just the battery and the solar panels so that we have a place... Yeah, see, this is why I don't want them to come out yet. So that we have a place to... This should dissipate. Let me give this just a minute. So that we have a place to live that is very compact, so we can start putting our... not the bunker tiles up, but the bunker doors. I guess you could put bunker tiles, but I still want to have these open, because we're going to talk a little bit about how to manage that. I've talked about space setups before and ways that you can do it. I'm debating whether I'm going to do, like, an exploity one on this one. I think I will just demonstrate it. You don't have to follow this way. I've actually talked about this before in some older walkthroughs, but it's been a while. It's also a little complicated, so this might take us a little bit, but yeah, just going to continue to deconstruct that, and we're not going to get solar panels right away, simply because we just can't really protect them. And I don't want to do that. Man, this is still hot. These duplicates are going to just be taking some damage here for a second. I guess I'll force them into suits. I mean, I guess it's fine to do that, but I don't know. I guess I'm just spoiled from the other asteroids where we can just land and get to work. The one that's over here probably doesn't have any oxygen in it, but I'll just go ahead and get that really quick. Why can't I click on this? What's going on? There we go. Alright, who doesn't have it? It's you. There we go. Okay, little bit of a rocky start here, but oh, see, look, this is how they can get stuck. They can get stuck on these other modules by standing on it when something else gets deconstructed, and now he is stuck there until we build something to get him off. So we could just do something like this to get him down. There we go. Just gonna keep shrinking the rocket here. Gonna take down all the modules that we don't need, which will just be this one and the nose cone here in just a second. Oh, nice. Auto got that done pretty quickly. Now we effectively have space here for us to start taking some territory. We need a good amount of room because we don't want to, like, build it right on top of here because then we won't really have space for solar panels. But you don't need to go too high either. So let's just assume our row of solar panels is going to be here. I'll just mark it. Then we'll assume that we need a row of something to keep our solar panels, like, safe. Actually, now I'm thinking about this, let's not do the exploit way. Let's talk about a way that I haven't ever done, or rather showed before, which is a pretty old solution, actually. I'm going to be using the auto miners or robo miners, whatever this word is called. I'm really struggling. Okay, so we're basically just going to need a row for our solar panels. We will need a row of some type of building that the solar panels can see through, but more importantly, where all the debris is going to rest from the asteroids. And then above that, we're just going to need a row of bunker doors. These bunker doors are probably going to be a little bit high up for the time being, because we do need some space to save up for where the auto sweepers are going to, or rather not auto sweepers, the robo miners are going to go. Let me get the stuff done up here. We probably will also want a fire pole, so I'm going to expect a fire pole there. Let's put a bunker tile up, maybe like that. I think that should give us enough room. We'll double check here in just a bit. But yeah, so just going to start with 2 bunker tiles over top of the area that should really never open. Now this should never open because that's where my duplicates are going to be climbing up and down this vertical chamber here. We're just going to kind of spread out some bunker doors like this. We can do a ladder every other one. But we just need a place to protect this area. And we will start hooking up some automation to get these doors opened and closed. But you're kind of in like a chicken and egg type of problem here. Like, we need these bunker doors to stay protected, but we also need power in order to open and close the bunker doors. So, a little bit of a problem here. But let's just get protected first, and then we will worry about opening these up once we have proper protection. If we don't, we're going to start taking damage from all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, pretty basic start here. This is going to take my duplicates just a little bit, so let's get this rolling. We'll check back in just a minute. I don't know what's going on here. We'll check back here in just a minute and get the rest of this all set up. Okay, now that we've got a good shield of bunker doors here, also make sure to spread your shield of bunker doors a little bit further to the left and the right than where your base is actually going to be, because some of these meteors can come in at an angle. You want to make sure that that angle isn't going to be one that your base can get struck at. Not really exactly sure what the angles are, but it's probably like this wide, maybe. I don't really know how to quantify that. I guess in total, like this amount of angle would probably be like 30 degrees, so maybe it could come in at like a 15 to 20 degree angle, something like that. So yeah, once we have those shielding up, let's start getting the inside of the base ready, which will be much better for us to continue working out here because we do need our suits and stuff like that to start getting filled up with oxygen. Notice that our battery power is going to drain over time, but there shouldn't be a lot in here that should require that. It really should just be our oxygen diffuser and our gas pump, but if it starts getting bad, we're going to have to start using manual generators to generate power for us while we're here. So just keep an eye on your battery level, because if you don't notice and you run out of power, then there's nothing that's giving you power right now on this asteroid, and that can be really bad. Part of the reason why this is last, too. What is going on? I keep getting this alert where they're scalding, but they're scalding in this area where there's nothing hot. So I don't really get what's going on. Anyway. So yeah, let's get our liquid lock set up here, and I'm just going to be building all of my outside with insulated tiles. That's mainly so that we can protect ourselves from all the steam and stuff that's going to be out here from the other asteroids. And also when we lift off our rocket, it's going to generate a lot of heat to get our duplicates back. Let me see where we actually will fly out of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll probably have to crash land on here and then pick them up. So, anyway, shouldn't be too big of a deal. Or we could just take a steam rocket back, either way. Let's get a hydro sensor in here to start getting this filled up. And once again, just make sure that you have all your pipes ready and connected to start getting all this water sent out to your liquid lock. So we've talked about the interior planning of this a lot, but just hook it up in a way so that you can start putting water into your liquid lock pretty much as soon as you get there. And once we get all this stuff dug out, we will start getting our suits up and stuff like that. We've seen this many times, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but yeah, that's going to be the plan. I'll probably just leave a little layer down here. Something like that will be the bottom of the base. This is going to start out being a really tiny base, and we will expand as we take more territory. So yeah, just going to be working on that for a little bit. Okay. Oh, this wasn't supposed to start yet, but This is the first portion of it. I really need to watch my battery because my battery being gone is basically a too bad, so sad, you're out of power, you have no oxygen type of thing. So I definitely want to get that up before that is all drained. So I'm just going to be setting up a couple of coal generators here, connected to a smart battery. Smart battery, we're going to do our typical 80-20. And now if my duplicates need power, they can just connect, or rather can just run coal here, and that'll keep us going for just a little bit. So that's the first point of business once we get down there. And I'm also kind of doing it on one side, so that when I set up my ventilation system, which I'm definitely going to need, it's all going to be kind of over here, while any oxygen production can kind of be over on the side. A little bit of an awkward and tight base setup, but it will make more sense. It'll get a lot better. Who is making that? What did I just watch? Is there like an invisible duplicate or something? Anyway. So yeah. I just need to set up a couple more things. We need suits. We need a way to generate oxygen. We need to fully wall all this stuff off. I also have my lead tiles up here to prevent too much radiation exposure, so we should be good up here. Then once we have suits, it'll really kickstart the rest of this. So that's kind of the next objective, but I really can't afford suits and ventilation and all that kind of stuff until I have some power being generated, which normally we get for free because we have solar panels, but here we just can't really afford that. So yeah, just gonna keep going with that. Okay, this is about what the little mini base looks like. Just getting the rest of this stuff set up so that we're a little bit more efficient. But yeah, just a couple of oxygen diffusers. We are now dependent on algae, so I need to keep track of that, make sure I don't burn it all. We will need to sweep it in here too, so we could probably do the same thing with this bin as we're doing with the coal. Just have them bring it all and just kind of drop it on the floor so it's available. But yeah, now that we're getting the suits filled up here, I also needed more water to get pumped into my system, which is one of the reasons why it's good to dig all this stuff out and have access to the bottom. So you just get access to a bunch of free water when you get down here if you do that. So yeah, now we have some water flowing back into the system. Which, where's it all going? I don't understand what's happening. I feel like water is just being deleted right now, which doesn't make sense. Right? Am I looking at this wrong? There's like flow out of the rocket, but not out here. I've never seen this happen before. Really don't understand what's going on here. Something bad is happening, so I'm just gonna do this. I feel like there's like a glitch here that's deleting water. And we're finding a bunch of them, apparently, so yeah. Anyway, so if I just have a little spot down here that has a pump... What is going on? I'm so confused. If we just have a little spot down here that has a pump, you can force more water to go over to the side by just building tiles in the way. By building tiles, it should displace the water out, and it should push it up and over to the side. Yeah, there you go. This is why I was surprised earlier about the water getting deleted, because this is what I would expect it to happen. Man, we're seeing all kinds of bugs in this run. This is actually pretty wild. So yeah, there we go. Now we have a bank of water here that's just going to be created, and I snipped the line that's apparently sending it out, because I don't know where it's going, which is really weird. So yeah, just got this thing going. Now that our suits are getting filled up, we can enact the need for a checkpoint, so my duplicates will need to get into the suit. Whoops. We'll need to get into the suit whenever they're leaving. And that means we can start fleshing out more of this. I'm going to start bringing this over pretty far. I might go all the way to the side, just so that we can cover this, and at least we'll know that we have all the space available to build out our base. Plus, there's two vents right here, and I want both of them because they're going to represent some of our power and water generation on this planet. Note that we did not bring Draco eggs because we don't really need it here. We can generate some water, and we can also do some stuff with the shovels. So we will be doing that. Let me get a bunker tile to eventually seal this off. So yeah, just going to keep this busy for a little while. But my objective here is just to take a bunch of territory. Then we will switch into getting our system set up for cooling and that kind of stuff, which we're going to need before we start getting solar panels up and all that fun stuff too. So just going to be building this out for the time being. Not a whole lot happening other than just kind of living in this little micro base. As I get further pushed out here, maybe to like here or something like that, I'll just put these up at like 6. Once I get that far, I can extend my base over a little bit further and then put the typical buildings that we would have in here so we don't have to live out of the rocket anymore. So just going to keep on that, I guess, path forward of progression for a little bit. Okay, we've extended our ceiling for quite a ways over here. Also created a little bit of an add-on to our base, which I don't know if it's going to be the final one, but definitely will help out in terms of getting our duplicants all moved in here all the way. So the way I'm doing this is just building a ladder in between the place where we're going to kind of join these two parts up. And then all the places that I need to expand into is just kind of built out like this. Same metal tiles here on the top, so in order to close this up, all I really need to do is put a tile at the bottom and a tile at the top, and then destroy the wall in the middle, and then it's all usable. So that's going to be the idea here. The next thing that we're going to want to do after we get this thing set up is I'm going to fill up a tank of water. And because we don't really have a cooling system right now, I'm just going to take advantage of the fact that this water is already pretty cool. And we will get our cooling system set up here in just a second. But I mostly want to get it set up so that when we start setting up our solar panels and the things to clear all the regolith, that we have at least some form of cooling before then. Otherwise, it's going to overheat in a hurry. But yeah, we'll get that set up here in just a minute. Let me get the base built out really quickly, and then we will start that loop of water, and we'll start building this top part out. Alright, our interior, or rather our expansion, is kind of built out. This is about what it looks like, which means we don't really need the rocket to live in anymore. So now we can just live in here like normal. Got all of our essential systems here, oxygen system, obviously. Some temporary power, which we need to switch off of as soon as possible so that we don't run out of fuel and need to start going to manual generators. Great hall, bedroom, bathroom, all that fun stuff. And I almost forgot to keep repairing my Atmos suits, otherwise my duplicants are just going to get trapped inside here because they won't be able to wear their suits because they're too damaged. So there you go. Pretty basic setup for this. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and now that we have all this stuff all blocked off, is way to dig out the regolith from the asteroids that impact these bunker doors. We will eventually open these bunker doors and have some automation on them, but we need to pre-plan for the outcome that stuff will get buried in regolith when we open it up. And we need a way to deal with that. So I've talked about a few different methods of dealing with this in the past. The cheapest one that I can find, and it's not really an exploit, is the one we're going to be doing here. It's kind of an older setup, but it's going to be using a newer building that those setups probably don't reflect very often anymore. So let's talk about the other setup that we did to deal with this. So we have robo-miners on this asteroid, which kind of cover each other's area because they get buried in oxalite. The reason that this setup works so easily is because the oxalite comes down at a very low temperature, which means it will not overheat these robo-miners. But the problem is that if we did the same thing here, the regolith comes down and it is obscenely hot. It will damage those things unless we have a material to build them out of that we just don't have access to right now. So the best we can really do is just use our robo-miners the same way, have them cover all the distance that they're going to cover normally, but we just need to put a couple mesh tiles on top of them so that the regolith will fall on top of the robo-miners and it won't, or rather it'll fall on top of these tiles and it won't damage them. Which also means we will need these to do kind of come in pairs to cover each other. But we don't necessarily need them to be spaced out as densely as they are here. They're done that way here so they can dig each other out quickly. But these will never get covered up on the other asteroids, so we can space them out a little bit wider than on the other one. As long as these two can cover each other, they're fine. And this one's digging all the way to the side. So we can kind of measure where the spot is going to be that this last one will actually take up, and just put one that will still make sure we get every tile covered. But we don't need to make sure everyone is double covered. We can just kind of do a single coverage here to make sure that those two can at least dig out all the area that would be covered in regolith. So yeah, something like that is what we can do. We just need a little bit of protection. We'll get the rest of these all set up here really quickly, and then we'll talk about cooling. But cooling for right now, I'm just going to use a tank of water from all the water that's already down here, and we will replace it with a better cooling setup in just a bit. I just want to get this opened up and running as soon as possible so that we have a better power source than the coal that is very finite right now. So, yeah, just going to build the rest of these out here really quickly, making sure to keep them in pairs. And then we'll set up the cooling here in just a minute. Okay, pretty good timing. We now have a meteor strike coming down, and this is kind of why we have the bunker doors, to make sure that we can absorb the impact of these. These are not the Regolith asteroids, apparently. They're just the iron ones, but even still, they come down at an extremely high temperature that we will need to protect ourselves from. So, yeah, there you go. Here's all the robo miners set up. I'm going to start getting the cooling and the power going up on this. This is one of the instances where I'm going to say you need to be really careful about how much power you are letting these things use, because these will probably all be running at the same time, in addition to all the doors. So if every door is running at the same time, we need to make sure we don't overload this, which I think we can hold like 16 of them on one transformer if we're using the thicker power cables. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So at minimum, we're going to need to split this into 2 so that we can power the doors, which there's, what, 6 left over? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Cool. So if we did all of these on one, and then some of the doors on one, and then split it into the second power transformer, we should be fine. So we're going to give that a try and just kind of run those power lines really quickly. So let me count off the rest of this for powering these. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I think that's 16. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yes, okay, so this is all going to be on one power line. And then second, we're going to do everything else should be able to fit on this. We will probably still need to go back and fix up the ways that we can actually access these bunker doors, because right now a lot of these can't be reached. So I'm just going to create some more ladders here. We did have ladders here before that I just got rid of, because we'll probably want to make sure we can at least get on top of this area to help out. But we can just kind of space them out, something like that. It doesn't need to be... I know, I just said it again. It doesn't need to be too scientific, but as long as they can reach all of the different building spots that they would need, just something like this ought to work. And these ladders I don't think should get damaged. We should be fine. There we go. There we go. So yeah, something like this. We'll get all that stuff built. Let's talk about cooling really quickly. The reason that I'm using mesh tiles here is, one, so that the sun can shine through them. And two, they don't really conduct any heat from one another. So they're good to kind of be like this, and they will not transfer that heat into these robo miners to a degree that will cause many problems. So yeah, we're just going to get the cooling set up with these conduction panels, and as long as we keep the pipes kind of like inside the mesh tiles, they will not really interact with any of the temperature, and we won't get any inefficiencies from doing something like that. So I'm just going to put a conduction panel at each one of these robo miners like that, and then all we need to do is run a pipe that's going from the output of this tank and then back to the input of the tank, but going through each one of these conduction panels one by one. So yeah, I mean, this is a lot of busy work. I can definitely get this done here in the meantime. We're running a little bit low on supplies. We might actually need to start sending ourselves some. But there's also some more like mafic rock and stuff we could dig out. So I think we'll be okay. But this is going to take a little bit to get all this cooling setup going. For each one of these, I'm just going to try to keep it in the space that's not really touching anything else. And I'm just going to use regular pipe, because there shouldn't be that much like temperature exchange, or rather like materials here to actually make any temperature exchange happen with these pipes anyway. So just going to get that done. I'll probably run a layer underneath this, because we know this is going to be more cool. I might start doing the solar panels here too, actually, so they can reach the bottom of that. So I guess we might as well. Let's just do it all now, whatever. So I think if we just do this, it should be fine. I don't think any temperature transfer is going to happen. I don't think any steam will get this far down either, because sometimes the meteor strikes are from that. We will need to remove some of these, but we'll figure that out in just a second, depending on where we need our detectors. But at least for right now, this will help us get all of the pipes ran and get that going. So yeah, pretty big expansion here, but we'll get it running, and we will make the adjustments that we need to here in just a second. Okay, we have the setup pretty much ready to go. All we need to do now is open this up, but we need a good automation system to let us know when it's safe to actually open it up. We can't just open it up at random, otherwise we are going to get hit by meteors and have to constantly be repairing the damage that they will be causing. It's not obviously like colony threatening or anything like that, at least not at first, but definitely something we're going to want to stay on top of. So the way we're going to do this is we need a way to send automation signals to open these doors when we know that it's safe. So I'm just going to do a big line of gold here. I think the gold should be able to withstand the impacts. If not, we'll have to switch to something else. I don't think the impacts are that hot, but yeah, going to put all of this on a automation wire to go all the way up and down. And then we're going to hook that up to something that's going to be used to open and close those doors, which is going to be an automation. It is our space scanner. We're just going to sub out one of these panels for a space scanner and drop that in there, and we'll probably put a second space scanner in here somewhere, depending on where that makes sense. So we're going to get those things going. My duplicants are in here building a little cooling loop for the inside of my base right now, which is why it's taken them just a bit. So I'll get all the wires built for this. I'll get the space scanner up. Actually, we could probably just put our first one up here really quickly. Which, here we go. We need to actually have a place to put it on the ground. And note that nothing else can be in that space. So, like, there's an area here that it says that cannot be occupied. So doors will need to be opened. These should not impact it whatsoever. As long as we have it set up something like this, then we can kind of scoot our solar panels over, but we need to find a second place that's going to make sense for one of these two that doesn't quite overlap. You will want some form of redundancy on these, otherwise it can be a real problem trying to detect these on time. So it looks like this panel is the one that's going to need to go as well. These ones in the middle we could probably rebuild and reposition just a little bit, but the cooling loop is up and running. It'll keep our robo miners good for a little while. The water that's in here will continuously heat up over time, but as long as it stays within a reasonable temperature to where these won't break, these won't start overheating until that water was boiling anyway, so we should have plenty of room. Yeah, so we're going to just survive off of that for a little bit. I'll kind of fast forward here until we get one of the space scanners up, and then we can set up our automation for it and finally get these things open and be generating some solar power. Alright, space scanners are up. Our automation wire isn't quite complete, but we can start opening this up just a little bit at a time. All we're going to need to do on these space scanners is put up some automation wire that goes out of them and connect it to an OR gate. I know a lot of people don't like to do this because it's not technically required to do this using the OR gate, that is. You can just kind of run the lines together. I just prefer to be explicit, and there are some weird edge cases where this can matter. So I'd rather just do it the same way every time if I can. So yeah. We're going to connect both of them up to an OR gate so that if either of them is sending a signal saying that, hey, we're detecting this meteor shower that's coming in, it's going to go into a NOT gate, which is going to be needed to close these doors correctly. We could actually just waste less material by not having it go all the way over there. So there we go. Once this all gets connected, what will happen is these will be saying, okay, we're not really detecting anything. And if both of them are not detecting anything, then it will open up these doors and start letting the solar panels run once the sun comes back up, obviously. So let me prioritize this a little bit so we can actually see this opening up. Come on, guys. There we go. So, once we get that, you can actually select what objects are supposed to be sending automation signals, and the default is meteor shower. So if you just leave this alone, it should be good, and it says it sends a green signal when it detects incoming objects from space. But because we want the doors to close, like we want a red signal when that's happening, we just need to invert it with that NOT gate. So yeah, they're just going to get that set up here really quickly. I think we might be able to get away with 2, but obviously more helps. The more that you have here, the better off you're going to be in terms of detecting the meteor showers before they come and start hitting your bunker doors. So yeah, it looks like we have one of them connected, and it's starting to open the door here. So you can see that it's sending a red signal by saying, oh, I don't see anything, and this one's saying, okay, I also don't see anything. It's not quite connected yet, but yeah, that'll open the doors, and there we go. Our solar panels have now kicked into full gear. And we're going to get a lot of power off of these things, which is good because we need it. So, we also may have to move this. Let me check to see how much space we have. Yeah, because we're going to need to... Well, we don't need to, but I want to take this steam vent, so I might actually wind up moving this again, which I wasn't noticing once we first placed it there. But as my duplicants get more of this automation wire connected, more and more of these doors are going to open up until we have full view of everything. And then when Meteor Shower is coming, I'll show you how it's going to react, because this should turn on in time. You can see it's unhappy with this door that's right here, so we'll need to get up there and get rid of it. But our scan quality is such that we should detect objects coming a decent amount of time before they arrive. And these doors take about 90 seconds, or I think it's like 60 or 90 seconds, I can't quite remember, to open or close all the way if they are powered. So yeah, our power grid is going to have to really be beefed up for this point. This is also why I've put a bunch of batteries and the rocket platform down here just to kind of serve as our battery bank. So yeah, we've got that. We're going to start getting the steam vent and the cool steam vent and that kind of stuff going as well. But now that we have all of our power needs done, I think we can get rid of these coal generators because we shouldn't need them, assuming we have enough battery capacity. What may happen eventually is these may close because of a meteor shower, and they might stay closed for a little while, which is why you'll want this huge battery bank ready just for all the backup power. If it gets to a point where we can't really generate power that well, you may need to throw a manual generator in here and hook it up to the automation in some way of saying, like, yeah, you can run the manual generator if the batteries are low enough, but also only if the doors are closed. Because that would be the only time that we would really need manual power to take over. You can also do the same for your coal generators too if you need to, but I don't want to rely on that resource anymore if I don't have to. What's entombed? Oh, he's annoying. Guys. Alright, we'll start dealing with the shovels here in just a little bit, but they may entomb stuff here and there from just the... That's just the way they behave. They're not very nice creatures. Okay, there you go. So, next, let's start worrying about getting our cooling and stuff like that set up. But the problem is that these bunker doors are extremely expensive. So if I need to make some aqua tuners, I can really only afford one right now. So I'm going to go back home and I'm going to start shipping myself some extra steel, which looks like this one is not really in service anymore. So we can start sending ourselves steel. And we can hook this up in a way that sends what we actually want. Because right now I think it's sending water. So there we go. And what's this hooked up to? It looks like this isn't hooked up to anything. So we can start sending ourselves steel from this line. It'll have to send all the stuff that's in there first. I guess we could empty it out, but I could use the igneous rock as well. So I'll just keep it there. So yeah, any steel that we get, we can start sending up there, which should help out because... you should have some other sources of iron coming in by now, either from those asteroids, which you can start sending back, that come down here, or on your ice planet. If you've taken one or two of those iron volcanoes, then you can start sending yourself that. I'll be talking about that in the next video, but it's technically already happening by now because I sometimes have to film 2 different videos at the same time, especially because these colonization ones last so long. So yeah, I need some more steel before I can get my cooling setup going. So because I have to wait, let me set something up to get good targeting on those, by the way, so I don't have to run so far away to get it. Here we go, targeting beacon. It needs to be able to see out to the surface, which I think we should have a little spot here in a couple places. We could also hook up our automation to these doors as well. Or my duplicants could just run and grab it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We've got a couple things we need to do anyway. I'm going to create a ladder that will allow me to get on top of these doors at any given time, and then I'm going to get up here and destroy this door because it's causing our scan quality to not be as good. So yeah, I'll clean all this stuff up, and while we're waiting for those shipments of steel, which might take a little bit, let me also talk about the other food source that we're going to have here. You might notice that once you've mined all this stuff out, there's going to be a lot of shovels and a lot of meat and all kinds of stuff that it's down here. And that can be really handy for getting your food going on this asteroid. Also note that I did not bring any Draco eggs, and that's because we can subsist off of these shovels pretty well on this planet. So here's a setup that I'm going to start getting going. I'll need to measure this out more precisely than this, so this might change a little bit. But what I'm going to be doing is creating a setup here that we can then put a handful of shovels into. Something like this. And the inside of this, like this is all kind of walled off because this is going to serve as the room. Let me see how big this is right now, by the way. Only 66. We might make this just a little bit larger. If we need to, we can make it lower on the bottom. So let's do that. But the whole idea with this is you're just going to have a platform kind of floating in the middle of this. And obviously not reachable by any means other than just by some ladders. This is so that when we are taking care of our shovels in here, we can just keep them all on this platform. And I'm only going to keep a few of them in here, at least as many as this will hold for the time being, because I don't want to have to continue to feed them all the time. But what we're going to do is we're going to generate a whole bunch of shovel eggs. Then all the excess shovel eggs are going to be kind of sent down here to something like this. You can just send them onto one platform. We're just going to have a huge colony of shovels just kind of all sitting right here. And then if they drop anything, like if they drop meat or if they happen to lay an egg or something like that, we can put something down below to catch all of it. So I will flesh this out just a little bit and we'll start getting our shovels all set up here since we have to wait for our steel anyway. And I'm not that worried about our cooling. Like we can just keep an idea of how our cooling is doing throughout all of this, and it's risen by like maybe a degree lately, so I'm not that worried. So we can just kind of keep this running for the time being, and I'll come back once they have more of this fleshed out, and we can start building out what the inside of this room is going to look like to ranch some shovels on this asteroid. Alright, before we start collecting all the shovels, something's striking me in the sense that there's too many spots here that the shovels could drown if I were to wrangle them and try to move them over into this setup. So first of all, I'm just going to create a water pit here that we can move all this water that's on the surface over into one area. So that's going to be the plan. What is going on? Are you stuck? What are you doing? Okay, I don't know what you're doing, but anyway, we're just going to be making a place for all of our water to collect in one spot so that we can move everything out of the way and have a nice clean area at the bottom where we can grab all of our shovels without risk of them drowning. Otherwise, they could get stuck in positions like this that are not ideal. Or they could, if we wrangle them, they could just get stuck underwater and drown, and I don't want that to happen. So, just going to create a place to put all of our water first, then we'll start getting the shovels. Okay. Got all of our water collected so that none of these shovels should drown. I guess there's always a chance they'll be on these little corners when they're wrangled and they'll fall in, but we'll try to micromanage that. So all I'm going to be doing here first is moving all of them to one spot, which I'm just going to use a critter drop-off and just kind of plant it in a room like this. It's in a really tiny room because the critter drop-off reads how many critters are actually in the room, and it won't let you bring more there unless the population drops. But it also drops if they move out of this room. So they should be kind of on these edges, and notice that I'm using metal tiles everywhere, because otherwise the shovels will burrow themselves into the tiles, and they will be able, like, they won't be tracked by the room, and they'll be harder to wrangle and that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's move all the shovels here. Whoops. Let's see. I'm going to move both the delectables and the regular shovels here. And the Vole pups, which they're annoyingly named something different, so I have to scroll down further. Alright, so if we just accept 20 of them, we can just kind of wrangle a few of them at a time. And they should bring them all to that one location. There we go. I won't grab them all because I think there's like 50-something here. There's a lot of them. So we'll find out how long it takes to get everybody there. We also need to make sure our duplicates here have the ability to do this. So let me check this really quickly. You don't, so you're going to get it. You have it. You don't. And you do. Okay, looks like 2 of them did. Cool. So once we get all the shovels moved, then we can go grab some more and try to get them all in one spot. Meanwhile, let's build out this part, which is just going to be the part where we ranch just a few of them. So this room is 88 tiles large, with a big metal tile strip in the middle. This is going to be where the shovels actually sit, and notice that it's 2 spaces away from the walls so that the voles can't jump over to the edges and get out of the room and stuff. They're all going to be basically stuck on this one platform that they can't burrow in, and that's where all of the ranching will take place. So, all we need to put here is a grooming station, which I'm going to build out of steel, just because that regolith can get quite hot. And I'm also going to put a critter drop-off here, which we will set up in just a second. Now that all the shovels are getting moved here, you can see that the population of the room quickly drops as soon as I drop them off. And they're kind of all in one spot. The other thing that I'm going to want to do is I will want to put a storage bin down and grab any of the eggs that I find and put them all on this one platform. This one platform is going to be basically where every single shovel is going to be hatched, and eventually they'll all be located in this tiny little spot that will kind of stick them in one place, and then we can easily manage that with one duplicate going forward. So yeah, inside this room we need to make sure of a couple things. One, we are going to be feeding the shovels that are in this room, but when they eat, they will like basically spit up some of the stuff that they ate and create tiles out of it, which is really annoying. So I want to put a few of these robo miners here just to make sure that if they spit up any tiles that they get dug out. This robo miner is going to be down here on the bottom. Sometimes they can like go off the side and do it there. And then we want to make sure to move anything that falls down to this bottom area up to the top area. Or if it's eggs or something like that, we want to move it over here. So we just need to set up a little bit of a shipping system to get this done, and we're going to need a lot of conductive panels to make this work too. Also, if they drop anything on this platform. Actually, let me get this a little bit smaller so that we only have to use one auto sweeper. So we're going to need a lot of conductive panels to make sure that we get this cooled down, because everything here is still going to be basically sitting in a vacuum over time. And all of this will need to be cooled off, so the conductive panels will be something that we did just like we did with the auto sweepers that are up here. Sorry, long game hitch here. But inside here we're just going to have a place that sweeps everything out, and then we'll just decide what to do with this once it's swept out. So I guess we could drop this here. I think those can both reach it. Yeah. We could put it back into our shipping system here in the center and then sort it. So any eggs that we get, we could drop them over here, and any meat we get from this, or eggshells or anything like that, it'll just come back into here, and we can send it up to our electric grill so that we could do, or rather keep everything running via the barbecue that's going to be generated. So yeah, a few things that need to happen here. I'll build this out, we'll grab more shovels, we'll try to get them all in one spot. It might be in these walls here, which is why I put these tiles on the inside, so hopefully they'd be discouraged from going that way if I do wrangle them from inside the wall. So yeah, just grabbing a few more here, and I think that's all of them. I thought there was one over here too. Thought so. Where'd you go? Oh, there it is. Okay, well, we'll get that in a bit. But yeah, once we have enough, we'll set up all the parameters for this, and once we have all the cooling and everything in here too, then we'll bring them in, we'll bring in some food, and then they'll kind of just do their own thing. So we'll get to that in a sec. Alright, this is all built out. We kind of run through what this is going to look like. So first of all, inside this room, we have our critter drop-off that we're just going to be taking regular shovels. So I just want the adult ones if I can, wherever they are. If I knew how to alphabetically sort something, that would be great. So I'm just going to grab 7 of them, because that's how many they can fit in here while still not like violating the space requirements. So I'm just going to pick 7 of them manually just to kind of bring in here really quick, and we will automate some of this stuff later. So there we go. And yeah, just the regular shovels ought to do it. I'm also going to set the priority of that a little bit higher, and the priority of the grooming station a little bit higher. Now let's check the rest of the stuff that we have going on here. We have 2 robo miners that are covering the top area, and then one that really covers all the bottom. So if the shovels kind of make any tiles of regolith out of this, then we will be able to take care of it with the auto sweeper, or rather with the robo miner. Then over on this area, if they drop any eggs or meat or anything like that, I want to sweep it off of this platform. Eventually there will be no shovels on this platform at all. They will ideally all be concentrated right here as like the leftover shovels. And I will just continue to drop eggs in here so that the majority of the population is just stuck on this one tile. The auto-sweeping stuff. Underneath, they could drop eggs, they could drop meat, they could drop anything else down here. I don't necessarily need robo-miners down here because they're not being fed, so they shouldn't create any other tiles around here. But if they drop their eggs or whatever, I want an auto-sweeper to grab that and throw it into the conveyor loader and kind of ship it back into the base. Same thing with anything here. There's auto-sweepers that cover the whole top area and then stuff that covers the bottom. So if they drop eggs or tiles or anything, then I want them to take that, or rather pick that up and send it into the shipping network and kind of sort it to wherever it needs to go. For the top conveyor loader, I want to take everything except for Regolith. So if they drop any Regolith here, that's basically their food, so I don't want to get rid of their food if it's just going to be sitting here, so I'm going to do that. For everything else, I want to take all of it. So anything that falls down to the bottom, I want to take all of it. Same thing with down here, I want to take everything, and notice that I'm not sweeping this at all. So neither one of these two things are going to reach that one tile, because everything is eventually going to be piled up here. And that's where all the eggs are going to sit, so I don't want to disturb that, I just kind of want to let it sit there. And then everything that gets generated in this area, I do want to sweep it out. Any of the granite or eggshell and stuff like that, I can have my duplicants help just to get it out of here. So I'm just going to have my duplicants manually sweep a lot of this stuff, just so that I'm not wasting too much energy and heat sweeping all this stuff up. But yeah, like I mentioned, this will need conductive panels behind all of it. So conductive panel behind each building that is going to need to be cooled down, and then we can just hook into the same cooling loop here, considering it shouldn't take that much to keep these things cool. So just something like that. There. Now all the water from our original cooling loop that's cooling all of these robo-miners can just be included to cool all this stuff too. And it should keep it cooled down relatively well because it's not going to generate a huge amount of heat compared to how much water is here. And even still, the water that we have in the tank is really not drained that badly, so we should be in pretty good shape. So yeah, that's pretty much the setup for our shove voles. From this point, my duplicants will groom them every once in a while, and we should probably bring in a bunch of food for the time being, so I'm just going to grab a bunch of Regolith and put them in these storage bins. There's not really a great way to sweep any new Regolith that comes in, and it's also going to be so hot that I probably don't really want to bother with it. So eventually I will not be ranching these shove voles anymore, once it doesn't make sense to do anymore. I will just increase the population by feeding some of them and have a huge collection of them right here to generate food on this planet. We can also generate food from water too, especially if this is all too complicated. You could just go with water instead. But we need a good amount of cooling to get that stuff done, as we don't have any real cooling right now anyway. So I'm going to start off by just dropping a bunch of Regolith in here whenever my duplicants can get to it. Then I'll delete these bins like we did earlier, like very beginning of the game with the hatches. And I'll just leave the Regolith on the floor, and I will eventually refill this. We don't have a lot of Regolith, but it's enough to at least keep these shove voles fed and putting out a lot of eggs for a little while. So yeah, that'll just kind of be a manual step here in the meantime. So yeah, just going to fill those up, and then after that I'm going to start a cooling setup, probably somewhere over here, just so that it can cool the rest of my base. We'll get all that stuff set up here in just a bit, and we've seen all that stuff before, so I'll just kind of do it off camera real quick. Okay, here we go, and all of a sudden we have a big cooling and oxygen setup. This oxygen setup is a little bit weird, only because I needed the power transformers to run into these aqua tuners here. Could have also just made like a vacuum lock like we did with the oxygen setup on our main base, and just ran heavy watt wire in there, but I'm having to send myself quite a few supplies on this asteroid, only because it's huge and it takes a lot of supplies in order to kind of do everything that we need to do here. So I just thought this would be a little bit better. Ultimately, for your oxygen setups, as long as you have a room that you know can be kind of warm, and the hydrogen pumps at the top and the oxygen pumps are going to be down at the bottom with the same type of automation that we use here, then you should be fine. You could make it a little bit more efficient. I also wanted to have a tile here that shares a wall with this other side so that we do get a little bit of cooling to at least keep this stuff kind of cooled down. But yeah, we should be good. So let's go ahead and just turn this on here. Just going to turn on my transformers. I'll turn on the electrolyzer, and then this is already set to be above 400 grams. So now we've switched over to our water-based oxygen, which also means that we need a consistent source of water. But it's a good thing there's a couple of different sources here. For one, there's this cool steam vent. That's mostly what we're going to be using. There's also a regular steam vent that honestly is not really needed on this run. I will probably take it just because. But this should be plenty of water for just one duplicant's oxygen needs. I guess you could take the other one if you weren't getting any water here initially, because the first round of water basically like just barely fills up all the stuff that you need it to fill up. You will get a tiny bit more that coming from space every once in a while, but it's not really that worth it, I don't think. So yeah, all I really need to do is just complete the loop for cooling here, and then use this other cooling loop to start getting water and stuff like that. So all I'm going to do is just disrupt the cooling loop that we currently have, which we are really running low on liquid pipe supplies here. I might need to send myself some more granite or something. But yeah, just something like this so that the tank of water that we were using before is going to be out of the loop, and we will just be using this water in here to loop through and cool everything. So that's going to be the idea there. Then we can just get all this stuff reconnected here really quick. I think if we just do this, it should be good. Disconnect the bridge. There we go. There. So we could just do that. And then the second tank that we have here that's going to be circulating cooled water, we could just run through this cool steam vent kind of similarly to how we did on this planet. We have a couple of cool steam vents that we ran in here, and all we're doing is just running water in here to keep it cooled down, except for this one's going to be on a closed circuit instead of just on the water from the geysers there. So because this isn't too complicated, I'm just going to capture this geyser really quickly. Then we'll talk about this steam vent, and then I think that's going to be it for this asteroid. There's not a whole lot left to do other than just to build our rocket and get out of here. So yeah, I'll just kind of do this stuff that we've seen before, and then we'll tackle this in a sec. Okay, we're just about ready to take this. Did not want to unveil all the tiles until it was pretty much ready, because this is active right now. So as soon as I do, it'll start spilling steam everywhere. I'm a little bit worried about my solar panels getting damaged from this, but I think if my duplicates are fast enough, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. So I'm just going to do something like this and speed it up here really quickly so that they can get it built. I feel like with all the tiles and stuff here, it should keep all the water down and just kind of fall into this pit that I already had anyway. But yeah, so once we get these completed, all we need to do is wall this off really quickly. I am using mafic rock to wall this stuff off just because it's so available. It's not a great insulator, but I don't plan on having a lot of gas out here anyway, so if there's no gas, then nothing can really conduct any temperature, so whatever. So yeah, just gonna kind of speed this up a little bit. But the whole idea here is we just have a cooling loop of water coming through the exact same way that we do on the other asteroid. Just gonna be sending some pretty cool regular water through here. First with radiant pipes to cool this area of water down, and then some regular pipes just to condense all the stuff that's up here. As long as this is consistently flowing, we should be totally fine. And this will basically be our new water source. Just make sure that if you do this, you build the pump in here out of gold amalgam or steel or something like that that can resist the temperature. Yeah, steam didn't really get all the way up, so we should be fine. So there we go. Now we have a new water source. That ought to keep our oxygen running here for pretty much forever. I was going to laugh if this just immediately went dormant, but nope, it looks good. So yeah, that should do it. The other thing you can use this for, and the reason that I ran these radiant pipes through, is you could potentially use this for water for bristle blossoms if you're not getting enough, or at least not regular enough meat from all this. This will drop a lot of meat, but sometimes it can be kind of irregular. So that can be another way that you can handle this if you start running a little bit low on food here. But one duplicant is not really that big of a deal to keep fed. So let's take this steam vent really quickly. First of all, I need to get this space scanner out of the way. So I'm going to try to move it all the way over to the side as much as I can and have it not conflict with any of the buildings. So it looks like it's somewhere around here. Could probably deconstruct all of these solar panels right here for the time being, and then we'll just rebuild them in the right spots later. So just deconstruct these buildings too. I guess that one too. But all we're really going to be doing is clearing stuff out of the way, and this is going to be almost identical to a setup like this, except for the steam that's down here is just going to be something that we turn into water. And if you don't want the water that's that hot, you can always just vent it into space, or we could just drop it into here. There's a couple of different things you could do with it. Since I don't really care about it too much, since I don't really care about the temperature too much, especially if it's coming into here, I know all this can resist it and it can be cool enough. We could just send it straight into here whenever we get it. So, could do that, but then that might get mixed in with the water that you could use for blossoms, so it might not be the best idea. For now, I'm just going to vent it into space just because that's the easy thing to do. So I am using this to vent into space, and I just have it covered up with steel. Just so that if it takes any hits from meteors, it's not going to cause any real problems. So yeah, just have this for venting anything out. That's what I have for the gas anyway. I'm going to do the same thing for this water, just because I don't really want it, and this should be plenty. So yeah, let's get this dug out just a little bit. I don't want to unearth it all the way. But the steam vent, we're really just going to build something on top of it. Like I mentioned, it's going to look really similar to this. It's not going to be too fancy. The inside we'll still want to vacuum out with a gas pump. The weird thing about this, though, is that the gas pump could get damaged because of how hot the steam is. The steam comes out at 500 C, and the gas pump just can't tolerate that. So I'll build a little bit of a different setup here, and then I'll explain it rather than having all this stuff kind of waiting on me to build every single tile and stuff like that. So I'll get that done. I'll move the space scanner over here, rebuild a bunch of the solar panels in better spots, and just kind of advance forward. Okay, we've rebuilt. Here's all of our solar panels. Our space scanner's been repositioned. They're still not quite overlapping each other, which is fine. There should be plenty of time to close up before any meteor strikes come in, so we should be good. I'm just going to show you how to vacuum out a space like this that can be a little bit awkward. Of course, this went dormant right when I started building this out, so it's not going to be erupting for just a little bit. And I should probably also clarify that, like, there's no point in me taking this if I am just sending the water out here, so I didn't hook it up that way. This is just in case I need to vent anything out that I don't want. So I will be hooking it into my normal water system, so we'll do that too. The only other reason you would take this on any other asteroid is to get power from it. Or I guess if you really needed the water, you could do that. But this should provide plenty of water for just one duplicate, and I'm only using it for oxygen, so that should be totally fine. But we can go ahead and get this part set up too, just to get it integrated into that system really quickly before we turn all this on. Then once we get this walled off, this setup over here is going to be a nice way to vacuum something out. That you might have to, like, attach onto the side. So, like, let's say, for example, that I forgot to vacuum this out before it turned on. All the oxygen would start blocking all the ports here, and that's a problem. So, if I were to, in that type of position, what you could do is you could set up something like this that just has a door and a pump in here, just like this, with the door set up next to one of the tiles, so that if I were to delete this tile, which I need to do first, it'll still be walled off as long as this door is closed. But then, once I open the door, I can vacuum it out, and then I can come back and rebuild this tile later when I want to fully seal it off. So, you can just do something like that if you wanted to vacuum it out, which I don't think I've really talked about yet. This will get a little bit more complicated if there actually is steam in here, but it is still viable, depending on the temperature of the steam. So yeah, just going to get that done really quickly. Then all we need to do once this is done is open this up and turn on the pump. And that'll pump everything out. Then when it's done, you can close the door and rebuild this tile. And then this will just be a vacuum, and you can get rid of the pump and everything. This is basically the alternative to doing it something like this, where the steel pump kind of just sticks in there. Which I'm not really that upset about. Like, it's not that expensive to do this. It's only 50 steel. But still, the stuff is in here, and I'm never going to be going in there again to get it back out. So this is a way to do it so that you don't have to go back in there and get it back out. And especially here, I wouldn't want to leave the steel pump inside, because the steel pump can't resist the amount of temperature that the steam geyser is going to be putting out. Steam vent. They need to just call these the same thing. Geysers, vents, whatever. You know my rant about that. Okay, anyway. So we've got that all closed off. We need to get this closed off really quickly, since I just forgot about it. But yeah, the setup here is just going to be For the cooling as well, we just need to disconnect these lines, and now it's just going to flow up into the steam turbine as well, just to keep that cool. And then once we have that done, we can just go ahead and wall the rest of this off, and that should be fine. Same thing as usual, high pressure gas vent in there so that we can drop in oxygen and overpressurize that to help keep the turbines cool. But yeah, that's kind of the idea behind this. Nothing too fancy, but it is a little bit different than what we've done before. So yeah, there you go. Water system's all set up, oxygen set up. Food ought to be good with just the deaths of these shove voles over time. If it starts becoming a problem, like I mentioned, we can get some of this water out of here, and because I'm running it with the cool water from my aqua tuner setup, it will cool it down to a reasonable enough temperature. I also connected the cooling loop that's going all the way through all my robo miners and this machinery into my main base as well, so let's go ahead and get that finished up. Just so that the main base can also be cooled down over time, because there's nothing actually cooling it right now. So there you go. Now that it's all connected, it'll just kind of flow into the main base and kind of go around in a circle and then back out to this whole loop. So big, giant cooling loops here, but yeah, you can definitely share if it's not going to demand too much cooling on it. Even still, like, the temperature range that these things are going to start overheating is huge, so I'm not that worried about it being too warm in there or anything. So yeah, this should get slowly vacuumed out here. Might take it a little bit because there's a couple of different types of gases that are in here. And they like settle weird. So it's going to have to get all the polluted oxygen out before any of the oxygen will start getting pumped, which is just some great, you know, air and fluid dynamics and stuff. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for this asteroid. One thing that I have not really mentioned that much is the outside of here I'm wanting to keep as low gas as possible. I did mention it a little bit, but because of that, when I launch a rocket to get my duplicants back here... Ooh, we might see a meteor shower. I wonder what kind this is, actually. It's unidentified. But hopefully this is the Regolith, so we can actually see this in action, because we have not seen that yet. But I want to not have a bunch of exhaust from my rocket get into here as well, so I'm just going to build a chimney somewhere over here to get this rocket out. We'll add some manual automation to open and close these doors to launch the rocket, because I don't really need all this area necessarily, but I don't want the Regolith, which is going to cause a bunch of carbon dioxide and stuff like that, to be flowing into the rest of my base. So if I really cared that much, I could just wall this off with steel and not go all the way over, but it's like the same amount anyway. Or I could just live with the Regolith hitting and just deal with the heat, but this seemed a little bit easier. So it has been a lot of time for all of the steel required to make these bunker doors. I'm secretly buying time to see what kind of meteor shower this is, because it should be here any second, since my things are detecting it, so we'll see what kind it is. We have had the little, like, water meteor showers, or I guess ice, whatever. Those can be a little bit of a problem, because if there is some water sitting up here, and it opens, like, the doors open after it's done, and a bunch of steam gets on these panels, it can overheat it, so that can definitely be a problem too. But yeah, okay, I think I'm doing a pretty good job of buying time for this, but it's not really working out. So I'm just going to start the chimney, and as soon as this meteor shower happens, we'll take a look at it and see what it is, so hopefully we can see our robo miners in action. Nah, it's just little iron and tiny regolith meteors. We're not getting the big awful ones yet, so I'll probably just have to show this in another video, or we'll just hope that this happens before this video ends, because it's been a long time since we started this. And sometimes it can just take a while for these meteor showers to start showing up again. So yeah, I'll just get the chimney done, which I've just started over here, and we'll keep it going, and I'll check back on this in a later video to show the actual system all running here, but it should be good. Okay, a few points of business we gotta do before we leave here. One of which is we need to analyze the last couple artifacts, which will check another box, and it'll actually play a little bit of a celebration for us, so we could go ahead and do that. We just need somebody to be assigned to that, so I think the person we're going to leave behind here is Nicola. So we're just going to assign him to aesthetic design. He should jump on this really quickly. Oh, he has to bask in the light first, of course. There we go. So we should get on that. As soon as that bar is filled, we should be able to get that celebration to play, which will check off another one of our things that we need to get done here. We're getting pretty close. So yeah, that'll happen here in just a bit. The rocket that we're going to be taking back, pretty standard design. We're just going to have to use rust and salt for the oxygen inside this one, which we've done before. So once I move all the stuff inside here, it'll just be replaced with a rust deoxidizer, so nothing wild there. The stuff that I'm going to be sending is obviously all the rust and salt, and there's actually quite a bit of it on this planet, so that's something good that you can take back. Also going to take back any lead or graphite that I haven't used. Anything else that I think might be useful back at the home base, but this is one of the last asteroids we're going to be doing here. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But there's only a couple videos left, so yeah. Here's that celebration, by the way. Analyzing this Rubik's Cube ought to do it. There we go. So, yeah, I did record this a little bit earlier and got a gigantic bug here, so let's see what happens. Okay, same as usual, yep. Just going to be showing a few artifacts here. The funny thing is that these artifacts that I analyze, I just put them out on pedestals on these different asteroids, so I would know which ones have already gotten their uniques that were nearby. So, yeah, these are not too exciting to look at, obviously. There we go. Yay, teapot. Yes, teapot! Alright, in exploring this corner of the universe, we have found and assembled a collection of artifacts from another civilization. Studying these artifacts can give us a greater understanding of who we are and where we come from. Only by learning about the past can we build a brighter future, one where we learn from the mistakes of our predecessors. Proceed! That's how you're supposed to say it. Yay, achievement! Mine are disabled because I accidentally opened the debug command console at one point, so yeah. Anyway, so let's keep going on this asteroid a little bit. There's a couple more things we need to do. One of which is this is all vacuumed out, so we can start to close this up. And this will kind of finish the loop that I was talking about here, about how you can pump this all out and then keep this stuff sealed up afterwards if you have the pump on the outside. So now that we have this done, we can close the door, and this will create a seal here. So now we can open up this room and then put a tile right there on this corner. And that'll make it so that this stays a vacuum. We can keep all this material. And the biggest thing we can get is we won't constantly be getting building broken warnings here, because the pump is not going to be on the inside and exposed to all the steam. I don't know when this is going to not be dormant, so for the time being, this is pretty basic. All this is really going to do is turn on these steam turbines as soon as this thing erupts. Really straightforward. The extra water is just going to go right into this other area where we're hoarding a bunch of water already. So yeah, totally fine. The only other real point of business that I wanted to mention, I'll start getting my duplicates to deconstruct all this, by the way, is we still have not seen a Regolith asteroid hit down here. Oh, we need to stop shipping ourselves stuff too. Let's do that really quick. And clear. Stop sending me stuff. So yeah, we have not seen a Regolith asteroid hit this at all since we've been here, which is very unusual. They're usually a lot more frequent than this, so because of all the bugs I've been seeing in this run, it would not surprise me if there's something wrong with that. So, while we're waiting for all of our stuff to get shipped out from this central area, let me just do this. Let me tack on another part really quickly before we leave, just to demonstrate this system. I'm going to save the game, and then I will record another video and turn on the sandbox mode, and then we'll go back to a previous save without the sandbox mode, so we don't keep any of the stuff that we got from cheating to see this happen. But I don't know when a Regolith strike is going to happen, but I want to at least show how that works, so that's probably something we should do. So let me do that really quick. Okay, so let's simulate what a Regolith asteroid strike would look like, just because I've been waiting for almost 100 cycles and still haven't seen one, so let's get this done. What should happen is we're just pretending like our space scanners have seen an asteroid coming in. I just hooked up some automation here to close it manually whenever I wanted it closed. So just an AND gate coming from the space scanners and a signal switch to send the right signal to close these up when I need them to. Something that I haven't mentioned is when these do close, you will be basically without anything powering your base right now. So if you have these two aqua tuners running, which it's very possible that you might at this point, your batteries are going to drain really fast. So I did add a couple more batteries here, but if you do get into this type of situation, it can be a little bit of a pain to get out. So for now, the easiest thing you can do is just add a manual generator and start generating power manually with the duplicant that's still left here, just to keep things running. Another thing you could do is you could change your automation to not let these water packets through to your aqua tuners unless these doors are actually open. So yeah, there's a couple of ways you could do this, but I just wanted to mention that. So anyway, let's turn on our sandbox mode here temporarily, just to demonstrate this. So sandbox, yep, done. Resume. There we go. We'll turn on the sandbox, and we're just pretending like we're getting a meteor strike here from the Regolith. So let me get into our spawner here. Meteors, and we want a... where is it? Dust meteor? I think these are the small ones. Yeah. There we go. Where's the big ones? I think they're just called rock meteors. Yeah, okay, this looks right. So let's assume that a whole bunch of them come down all at once, and they should crash into here and create a bunch of regolith. This is what it'll create, is regolith at a pretty high temperature. You'll want to make sure that there is a very little gas here if you possibly can get it, or maybe even all the way down to 0, because the threat here is that the solar panels get overheated by everything, or potentially the robo miners, but we should be totally fine with this. Let me spawn a lot just so that you can see, even if there is a huge meteor strike happening here, that our setup can still deal with it. There we go. Interplanetary payload lands right on top of it. Okay, so now we're going to say, all right, cool. The strike's over. We're going to open up the doors. This is going to start opening everything up. And of course, it's going to drain a lot of power from your batteries as well by having these all running. So this is the one awkward piece from this, is once your regolith starts hitting, there's not a whole lot that you can do. So you could also send yourself some hydrogen here if that was becoming a problem. But what should happen is when the doors open, all the regolith is going to fall in. Then these robo miners are going to get to work. Let me see if I can speed this up. I might have to sacrifice some frame rate here just to speed this part up a little bit. But here you go. Here's a good example of why we built these in pairs. The pairs can help mine each other out so that your solar panels still have full view of everything while this is going on. So if you look at our light overlay, once it's all cleared up, that'll make sure that your solar panels are still fully exposed to everything. Your space scanners start getting visibility back. So yeah, that's kind of what it's going to look like, and it's really annoying that we didn't get one in the meantime. This is probably the longest I've ever seen the game go without spawning some regolith asteroids, so that's pretty wild. Yeah, so just wanted to demonstrate that. We'll just keep shipping everything out here, and as soon as we're ready to leave, we'll tack that last part on, and we'll call this video good. Okay, we are finally just about ready to leave this asteroid. This is a monster video. Maybe one of the last ones that'll be this long, but yeah. So, all we need to do to get out of here now is I hooked up a signal switch to open up these two bunker doors, which we'll just open up manually for right now, since we're only just going to keep it open for a little bit. Once we open them up, it'll start giving at least enough power to these solar panels to start creating some oxygen on the interior here. But the 3 duplicants I'm going to be taking, I have already changed their names, so we can go ahead and change the crew here. Ada, Beta, and Otto are going back. Nikola is going to be staying here and living on this asteroid for forever. He's never leaving! So now we should be getting some power, and this should start up here in just a second. Yep, there we go. Just saw it. So yeah, rust and salt are going to be our method of oxygen here. Taking about 10 kilograms of berry sludge, so we got that. We've got our water, our toilet, way to send out any of the carbon dioxide that builds up in here, and chlorine and that kind of fun stuff. So we should be good to go. Let's change to where we're going to be going, and for this one I'm just going to be bouncing off of the water asteroid so I can get close enough to abandoned ship nearby, because I don't want to abandon ship onto this asteroid and then build another one and fly here. I'd rather fly here, land, get carbon dioxide, and then abandon ship like right here. So that'll be kind of the whole route of getting back here. So let's acknowledge our warning of yes, we know it's fueled. I also have some doors here that are hooked up by switches so that we can just close that off and not impact any of the stuff that's over here in terms of like temperature changes, since we don't want to do that. Now that this is going off, I'm just going to close these doors really quickly, and there we go. So, oh, whoops, I forgot they weren't all on one. So this might actually get a little bit over here, but it shouldn't be too bad. There we go. Yeah, we should be fine. All right, I think that'll pretty much do it. All this carbon dioxide will eventually just gas off, so I'm not too worried about that. But that's pretty much it for this asteroid. Huge, long process to get this one done. This is actually one of the hardest ones to do. Oh, the other thing that I didn't mention, by the way, is with these shovels, if you are getting Regolith strikes, you can keep some of these fed, but this is kind of the downside of it. If you don't get Regolith asteroid strikes, then there's not really anything to feed to these shovels. They eat a lot. It is ridiculous. But the shovels produce a lot of meat when they die, so just the natural ones that you have and just the extra eggs you can get out of here, and even these ones in here dying ought to give this duplicant plenty of food. But like I mentioned, if you do need more, you can start running some water from here. You can see as we're cooling this hot water down to about 27°, you can start growing some bristle blossoms here and just rely on that in the meantime. So I just wanted to mention like the whole cycle with these shovels. In the case that I were to get a Regolith asteroid strike, which we just kind of reverted the change from last time because that was done via sandbox. But if we do get a Regolith strike, we can just say to bring all the Regolith here, and then I can just wrangle a couple of the already tamed shovels from out here and just put them inside this chamber so that they can be the ones that eat it and start laying some more eggs for me. So that'll pretty much be it on this asteroid. Nothing crazy going on here anymore, but that ought to totally wrap it up. So thank you very much for watching. We are very close to having all of our objectives done. The next couple things we're going to be doing is interacting with the temporal tear, and then that's going to close it out. So we are very close. Only a few more videos remained. If you have stuck through and watched the entire series up to this point, thank you very much for sticking through it. Let me know what you think about anything, or if you have any questions, and I will be very happy to answer. So, yeah, take care. I'll see you in the next video soon.